Well, welcome everybody to another community night here at Organic Living Chiropractic. My name is Dr. Tad Schexnayder. I'm a chiropractor and certified addictionologist. And today we are going to talk about a topic that's really challenging. Researching this topic really brought me to a whole new level of humility as I'm going through and identifying what we're going to talk about, why it's important for us to know about imagination, what it is, and how it affects us. And some of the things that you're going to learn tonight are definitely going to be surprising, and they are absolutely going to shake everything that you think you know about reality. So let's get started. How imagination affects health at Organic Living Chiropractic. So let me just ask you, what's the first thing that comes to mind whenever you think of imagination? What is it? And how does it affect our body? How does it affect the world around us? Does it at all? Or is it just this thing that, we have pretty pictures in our head? So let's first start talking about how not to use imagination to affect your body. Number one, fake optimism. This is absolutely not how imagination has a positive effect on our body. Number two, repeating the same lie until it becomes true. If you can just fake it till you can make it using your imagination. That is not how imagination works in the body. Ignoring reality because we don't like it. Every single one of these are forms of denial. And denial is never going to benefit us because it's a lie. And our biology, life itself, is wired to move towards and with truth. And it's wired to be agitated, to have a negative reaction to not truth. So anytime that we use our imagination to lie to ourselves, to lie to reality, it doesn't go well in our body, in our physiology, or in our life. So I'm learning how to use AI. I'm learning how to do prompts, and I devised a prompt to basically ask ChatGPT to give me the blunt truth about humanity misunderstands imagination, how it affects us, and how humanity misunderstands how imagination affects the world around us. And what it gave me was really, really interesting. So here's the blunt truth. It says, your imagination is not in your head. Huh, well, that's kind of interesting. Tell me more. It's one of the primary control knobs on your nervous system. Your endocrine and immune tone, in other words, your hormones, are affected by your imagination as well as your immune system. Perception of reality and therefore behavior at scale. That's really interesting. Humanity is currently using imagination mostly as an addiction engine. Doom, fantasies, grievances, consumer identity, instead of the biology shaping simulation tool that it is. Wow. I was not expecting that. I was expecting to hear ChatGPT tell me a whole bunch about how people try to fake it till they make it and all this other stuff. But this is really deep, and this actually ends up giving me more questions than it does answers. So we're going to dive in. What is imagination? What do you think it is? Well, firstly, imagination is a predictive mechanism that our brain has, believe it or not, to increase our survival chances. What is better than being able to react quickly in a situation? You know what's better than that? being able to predict the situation ahead of time and being able to be ready before that situation hits. And that's what our imagination is. This front portion of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is unique to humans. There's only a few other animals that have it, and ours is extremely large. But what it does is it allows us to run different scenarios about life that are possible and ideally predictable in ways that we can kind of hopefully guess what's going to be coming. And the more accurately we can guess, the more our brain rewards us. The more accurate those predictions are, the more of a positive experience that we get. And the less accurate those predictions are, the more agitation it causes in our system. And this is actually very important because you've all heard of self-sabotage, right? Where someone is just like, well, everything's going to go to crap, and sure enough, it does. Believe it or not, that is a way of helping that person to minimize the amount of pain that they experience. Even if the situation goes better than they predicted, there's still an agitation that comes with not being able to predict accurately. The next thing that imagination is, and this is really hard for most people to wrap their heads around, but it's really true. Imagination is the primary way that we experience reality. I'm going to say that again. Imagination is the primary, not the only way, but the primary way that we experience reality. Our eyes do not see. They pick up photon stimulation. Our ears do not hear. They measure acoustic waves. Our smell, our taste, none of that is actually cameras that pick up the world around us and play that movie in our brain. Our brain takes in all that information and it creates a model. It creates its best imaginary guess about what all of that information that the body is picking up means. Imagination is the major input, now again, not the only one, but the major input for training the build of our body that we are going to inhabit in the future. Imagination is our meaning maker. It's what determines whether or not our stress responses cause us to grow or actually cause us to become injured. And lastly, and this was one of the ones that surprised me the most, imagination is the bridge between personal healing and planetary impact. We're going to go deeper into these. So, the predictive mechanism, and this is wild and crazy, but the science and the physiology is very, very clear about this. This was in Frontiers of Human Neuroscience, published peer-reviewed article. In a recent meta-analysis, 7 independent laboratories came up with the exact same thing, that the human body can apparently detect randomly delivered stimuli occurring 1 to 10 seconds in the future. That is how good your body is at predicting what is going to happen. Even if the stimuli is completely given to the body at random, it can accurately predict it 1 to 10 seconds before it happens. That is a wild amount of ability to project into the future and come up with an accurate model of the information and energy fields that we're interacting with. And more than 40 experiments investigating this for humans have been published in the last 36 years. That's wild. So not only can our body predict it, but this is where it starts getting really weird, is our body actually starts to gear up to be able to act up to 800 milliseconds before we, quote unquote, decide that we're going to do anything. Now, that begs the question, well, what about free will? Well, since we're not actually experiencing the world around us, we are imagining it, we're creating it. Free will has more to do with our ability to veto our body's pre-programmed expected responses than it does for us to actually have true free choice. We can only choose based on what our body is giving us. If we have a choice between red and orange, well, we don't have the free will to choose purple because it's not given to us. So the amount of choices that we have and the ability to be aware of what's going on unconsciously is the closest thing that we can get to actual free will. And that's very narrow. So our imagination is also our reality generator. And this is tough. The only thing that you have ever experienced as a human is your body. Again, if you were sitting in this room, believe it or not, you would not be seeing me. You would be seeing the light reflected off of my atoms, coming back into the retina of your eyes, stimulating certain cells that can measure, they fire, they activate during certain frequencies of the electromagnetic spectrum. When those cells activate, they create a chemical, electrical cascade that goes through our brain, okay, filters through all of the memories and experiences that we've had, and also some of the experiences our ancestors have had. And then it comes back to the back of our brain, and our brain makes the best guess that it can about what the stimulation of photons to those receptors probably means, again, based on our already preconceived notions. So, whenever we talk about reality, out there, there may or may not be a reality out there. We actually don't know. All that we know is what our body tells our brain and the imaginary experience that our brain builds based on what our body says. The body does not respond to events. It does, okay, but it's not it. It also responds to meaning. It also responds to expectation and to simulated futures. All of that comes together to build what you call your reality. So a lot of times, something is very real for you, but not necessarily accurate with what's happening around you. And that's just something that we have to accept as human beings. That's part of being human. The mind-body, the mind versus body, the mind being separate from the body, is a myth. In reality, it's actually a physiological loop that goes back and forth and one has just as much of an effect on the other. So I want to introduce you to something. It's called the appropriateness principle. And this is something that has been discovered in biomechanic research. And what they did is they studied how being in different postures affects the experience that somebody is going to have. And so they studied all of these students, and students are easy to study because they're already at the universities and they will do a lot in the name of learning and science. And so what they did is they got them into different environments and different stimuli and had them slouching down versus had them opening. And what they found was that when there was a negative stimulus, and the body was in a hunched up or defensive or protective stance, okay, that experience was remembered as being negative, but the effect of that negativity didn't last very long. Whenever there was a positive experience and the body was in an open state, then that was remembered as a positive experience, and again, the effects, body just integrated it and moved on. What's interesting is that whenever that was mixed whenever there's a positive experience, but there was a defensive or negative posture, not only was that positive experience remembered or experienced as more negative than it actually was, the stress or negative effect of that lasted for much longer. Okay? And whenever there was a negative response, but the body was open and receptive, okay, it was experienced as slightly positive, but again, there was this big stress response. And so what the researchers showed is that when the body is in the appropriate position, posture for that experience, it's able to not only accurately perceive that experience more, but it's able to integrate it and move beyond it. So whenever we are experiencing something that we want, that we don't want, just remember that part of activating your imagination, part of engaging with your imagination to change your experience actually has as much to do with you changing the body as it does with you activating your imagination. And this is another reason why it's so important to get adjusted and to get really good body work, to make sure that our bodies are not stuck in certain positions and are free to move in and out all of the different positions that they're capable of, so that we can experience and integrate all of the different experiences that life has for us. So our imagination is our meaning maker. The stress and even the pain that we experience are not automatically experienced as bad. We can have a pain, we can have a stressor that the body takes in and indicates as a positive thing, and we won't necessarily experience it as a negative. So it's not necessarily always bad. Human suffering, however, is a little bit different than pain. Pain is part of life. It's part of healing. It's part of growing. If any of you have not seen our class called The Pain Paradox, I highly recommend it. It helps to dispel a lot of the myths around pain and helps us to kind of start the process of getting in control of our pain that seems to be victimizing us. But pain is not optional. Human suffering is. And the recipe for human suffering is inescapability, being a victim, meaninglessness, not being able to comprehend what's going on or being able to have a positive meaning around it. And number 3, isolation. I'm all alone. I'm helpless, I'm hopeless, I'm all alone. Anytime that we have that combination, almost guaranteed that we're going to be in suffering, regardless of how much pain is actually being experienced and expressed by the body. And not only those 3, but, and we talk about this a lot at Organic Living Chiropractic, the belief that our sensations are somehow dangerous. If we give a negative meaning, even to a positive sensation, that is going to drastically alter the way that we experience those sensations coming from the body. So how does framing, how does meaning train the body? Well, just think about this. If you're in experience and you truly believe that this experience is killing you, oh my gosh, do you think that your body is going to respond by openness and growth and expanding our ability to experience that situation? No, it's going to shut down. It's being told that its life is being threatened. It's going to mute as much as it possibly can. If we're in a situation in which we truly believe that it's killing us, all of the energy and information in our body is going to be shunted and pushed towards the ability to stay alive, to fight it, to run away, to hide from it, to appease it. It's not going to go into growth. So if we're in a situation and we truly believe we've got this, yeah, it hurts. I don't like it. It's hard. But you know what? I can meet this. I've got this. I can move forward. How do you think the body is going to respond in a situation where that's the experience of what's happening? Probably a lot better. So another thing that we need to know about how meaning from the imagination affects our physiology is the most healing meaning is not everything happens for a reason. The most healing meaning is this is real. This is workable. I can take the next honest step. Meaning, those three things change our behavior. And everything in the body is trainable. So as our behavior changes, so does our biology. Now, right now, the dominant industry on earth is imagination hijacking. Marketing, media, ad tech, outrage algorithms. Their job is to keep you engaged on social media. Because the longer you stay engaged, the more ads they can put in front of you and the more money they can make from advertisers. So everything on digital land is designed to keep you on for as long as possible. And it does that by hijacking your imagination. So what we're experiencing, what we're being bombarded with on the news and everything else is social threats simulations, comparisons, agitation, anxiety, keeping up with the Joneses. Okay, that's going to be pretty helpless right there because we can't control all of that stuff. Another thing that we're bombarded with is scarcity simulations. I'm not enough, there's not enough resources, doom and gloom on the planet, don't know enough, there's somebody that is smarter and I can't figure it out, so I just have to listen to the authority. Okay, that's a pretty lonely place to be, in a place of scarcity. It's also a pretty helpless place. Apocalypse simulations, doom scrolling. If you listen to the news, oh my gosh, the world is ending, according to the 24-hour news outlets. And one of the most pervasive ones, and the one that people defend the most, that seems to be the most insidious, is the identity war simulations. The us versus them. My team, the guys that I believe in, they're the good guys. And the guys that don't believe in that, they're the bad guys. The more and more we have this isolating, hopeless, us versus them situations, the more and more our imagination is being utilized to work against us. And this has measurable effects. It decreases our ability to sleep. It creates a higher baseline arousal, which means our body's already on edge and it doesn't take anything to get us into stress mode. It lowers our ability to focus. We're just moving from negative to negative to negative to negative, and we don't have the staying power to focus on one thing so that we can choose the positive that we want to have an impact on our system. It increases our cravings, it decreases our patience, it creates less intimacy with ourselves, with others, with our environment, and less willingness to do the, quote, boring but life-giving actions like cooking and cleaning and taking care of the household and interacting with our community, connection with nature. All of those things negatively impact our health. Right now, the planet is being absolutely devastated by a single shared imaginative delusion from humanity. And that delusion is separation. I am separate from my body. I'm separate from the consequences of my actions. I can consume, create all of this waste, and, that's not necessarily going to impact me. I'm separate from nature. More, if I can just get more, then I'll somehow be whole, be okay, be better, be safe. I'm separate from already being whole. I'm separate from already being healthy and complete. This imagination trap that we're living in, it ends up with a consumption as regulation. I have to buy. I have to scroll. I have to utilize porn. I have to utilize overeating. I have to utilize substances. I have to overwork. I have to always be in conflict, finding some kind of problem. I have to engage in high-risk taking behavior just to feel that I have some semblance of control, that I have some semblance of comfort. But of course, this doesn't resolve the root issue. So here's the solution. We need to consciously engage with our imagination and re-aim it towards stewardship. This is how we move the needle. Number 1, hope. Number 2, connection. And number 3, meaning. These are the things that we need to put our focus on in order for us to be able to utilize our imagination for our benefit. If we are not consciously engaging with our imagination, remember, this is the basis of the reality that we experience, there is someone or something else that is engaging your imagination for monetization and to control you to be a better consumer. That's just the reality that we live in. And so we have to accept that reality. And we can get creative about it. It's not all doom and gloom. So, number 1, connection. Connection to nature. Connection to yourself and connection to your community. These are the prime ways that we need to engage conscientiously with ourselves and with life. And each one of these, get creative. How can you emotionally connect with nature? How can you mentally connect with nature? How can you physically connect with nature? How can you spiritually connect with nature? Same thing with yourself. All of these and your community on a regular basis. And you don't have to do every single one for every category every single day, but make a list. How many can you get? Could you get 1 or 2? Could you get 3? That's great. If that's more than you were doing on a regular basis, good for you. You're moving in the right direction. Hope. What is one hard thing? What is one negative rumination? What is one type of catastrophizing, doom and gloom that you find yourself in on a regular basis that you are going to now do something about? You're going to stop the most negative loop that you run. But name that loop. Recognize what it is that you are imagining as the worst case scenario and start to challenge that belief. Is that worst case scenario something that you want to spend your time on? Is that worst case scenario something that you want your body gearing up and training for? Is that what you want your body predicting? And remember, there's a negative experience if our prediction doesn't come true. So is that really how we want to train our system to predict? Next, replace it. What if instead of the worst case scenario, what if you just did one step that you know that would move you towards a more positive scenario? Imagine yourself doing that step, even though it's boring. Washing the dishes. Just take a couple moments and imagine yourself washing dishes. It's not that bad. Cooking a meal. Chopping vegetables. Just imagine yourself doing that. How could you make that a little bit better? Just imagine it for a moment. Just imagine one simple step that you could do to move in a positive direction. Visualize the boring middle. Show your body that boredom that you're so afraid of, it's not that bad. It's definitely better than the worst case scenario. Now, how will you do that one thing? Not perfect, but 80%. How will you do it good? Now, do that one next step within the next 24 hours. Every time that you accomplish something, every time that you check something off of your to-do list, your brain starts to train itself and your body starts to predict more success. Now, one of the ways that we can turn this around on ourselves is creating a to-do list that we can never fulfill. If we never get the experience of accomplishment, we're also training our body to create more situations and scenarios that we don't feel success. So make a very small to-do list and make sure that you get those 1 to 3 things checked off your list every day. Again, make them small, make them doable, set yourself up for success. This is how you use your imagination to train your body to get better and better experiencing success in life. And isn't that nice? Isn't that what we want? Take a moment at the end of the day to register your capability. Remember a situation or a scenario in which you handled something well, that you did something good. Feel it. Vividly remember. Oh, yeah, I am capable. I did do that really well. And every week, we want to do 2 things. One you're going to like. Revel in real awe. Spend time in nature. Soak up some music, some honest silence. Really enjoy some art. Just really let yourself, oh, this is so amazing. This is so beautiful for a few minutes. And the next thing you're not going to like, but it's equally as important. Take some time and carve it out for grief, for feeling the loss, the missing. Allow your body to fully process whatever it is that it needs to let go. If we are afraid, if we have defense responses around loss, and everything ends, everything comes to an end. Even the negative things that we don't want, but if we have a defense against grief and loss, we will actually unconsciously resist letting go of those negative things. So we want to train ourselves more to experience awe and beauty on a regular basis, but also to fully go through the loss and grieving process so that, yeah, you may not necessarily like it, but you know what? The body's not afraid of it. And lastly, meaning. What matters most to you today? If you were on your deathbed 50, 80 years from now, and you were looking back on today, what is it that you would like to look back on and say, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I experienced that. Yeah, I'm that type of person. Is it really scrolling? Like, are you going to be looking back on your deathbed and be like, I got 4 hours of social media in that day? Is that what's really important? So find whatever it is, and again, just spend a little bit of time on what matters most to you. Stop outsourcing your purpose. As a rule of thumb, no feeds, no news, no scrolling, nothing that can artificially impact and sway your imagination for the first 30 minutes when you wake up, the last hour before you go to bed. And 1 time per week, I want you to find some source of information that's uplifting, some long format form of information that it takes you time to get through, that inspires you, that makes you feel good instead of agitating you. Spend 2 hours a week at minimum. That's really not that much. There's a lot of hours in the week. Learning or doing something that lights you up, that makes you come alive, that you lose track of time while you're doing it. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily know what their purpose is. They don't necessarily know what lights them up, and that's okay. Guess what? We get to explore. So here's a quick exercise. If you don't know what your purpose is, here's a quick exercise to help you narrow down on some things that you'd like to start exploring. So first thing, to find your purpose, I want you to write down 5 passions that you have, 5 things that you enjoy doing. Again, that you lose track of time. It doesn't matter what it is, okay? Even if it's scrolling, that may be a passion of yours, Okay? We're not going to knock anything, just 5 things that light you up and that you enjoy. Now, next, write 5 things that inspire curiosity. 5 things that you are really curious to learn about, that you have a question that you'd really like to answer, or you'd like to explore, or you'd like to experience. 5 things that inspire curiosity that you would like to know more about. And then next, I want you to write down 5 things that humanity needs. 5 big problems that you know humanity needs to overcome. Humanity needs to learn, humanity needs to experience, humanity needs to have in order to have a positive impact on ourselves and the world. Now, there are going to be a few things, and you're going to have to get creative with this, that overlap. There are a few things that you're going to notice. Ooh, I like doing this. Ooh, and this thing that inspires me, I could do it through or like or around what inspires me, what lights me up. And humanity or my environment, my friends and family, they have a need. And it's very, very close to this. So get creative, but I want you to find some overlap in all 3 of those lists. And that is going to be an indication of the direction to go into to find your purpose. So after all of that, now, what do you think whenever you hear imagination affects health? What's different about how you now see those 2 things? How you now experience them. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I really, really appreciate you spending your time with us. Again, this is a weird topic, and I love explaining and experiencing and researching weird topics. So thank you so much for letting me share my purpose and my passion. As always, if you're watching this digitally, if you will contact us, comment, message, text us with the word imagine, we're going to make sure that you get 50% off your first exam if you want to work with us. And again, I really, really appreciate you. My name is Dr. Tad Schexnayder, and here at Organic Living Chiropractic, we are so, so happy that you could engage your imagination with our imagination, because ultimately that's what's going to make the world a better place. Thank you.